Amara stood in front of gate 14, holding her small black suitcase. She had worked hard for this day, her first big business trip. It was a job interview in New York, and she had dreamed about this chance for years. She wore a neat blue blazer, black pants, and shiny shoes. Her curly hair was tied back, and her eyes looked tired but hopeful. She checked her boarding pass once again. Flight 788 to New York, seat 14, she whispered to herself and smiled. As the boarding began, passengers moved in a line. Amara waited patiently. When it was her turn, she smiled and greeted the flight attendant at the entrance. "Good morning," she said kindly. The flight attendant didn't smile back. She just nodded and looked away. Amara felt a strange feeling in her chest, but she didn't say anything. Maybe the woman was just tired. Maybe it was nothing. She walked down the aisle and found her seat, one for a window seat. As she placed her bag in the overhead cabin and sat down, the woman next to her turned and stared. It was a white woman in her 50s, wearing expensive clothes and holding a fancy handbag. She frowned at Amara and then rolled her eyes. "Of course," the woman mumbled under her breath, loud enough for Amara to hear. Amara felt the sting of those words, but she stayed calm. She pulled out a book from her bag and began to read. She had dealt with rude people before. She had learned to stay quiet and strong, but then things started to get worse. The woman beside her pressed the call button. A flight attendant came over, the same one who didn't smile earlier. "Yes, ma'am," the flight attendant asked. "I don't feel safe sitting here," the woman said, pointing at Amara. "Can I be moved?" Amara looked up, confused. She had said nothing. She had done nothing. The flight attendant looked at Amara, then back at the woman. "Let me speak with the captain," the attendant said quietly and walked away. Amara's hands began to shake. Her heart beat faster. She felt everyone's eyes on her. People were watching, whispering what's going on. She thought, what did I do wrong? A few minutes later, 2 more flight attendants came. One of them, a man with a badge, spoke firmly. "Miss, I'm going to have to ask you to step off the plane," he said. Amara blinked. She thought she heard wrong. "Why?" she asked softly. "There's been a report of an issue with your seat," he said. "Please, come with us." Amara stood up slowly. Her voice cracked. "But I didn't do anything." The other passengers looked away. Some looked sad, some looked scared. Nobody said a word, not even the woman who complained. As Amara walked down the aisle, she felt like she was walking through fire. Her cheeks burned with shame. Her eyes filled with tears. When she reached the exit, she turned around one last time. "This isn't right," she whispered, but no one replied outside. The plane, Amara sat alone in the waiting area. Her suitcase was beside her, and her eyes stared at the ground. She couldn't breathe properly. Her throat felt tight. She pulled out her phone and called her best friend Zara. "They threw me off the plane," Amara said, her voice shaking. "What? Why?" Zara's voice came through the speaker. Shocked? "I don't know. A woman said she didn't feel safe sitting next to me. I said nothing. I did nothing." Zara was silent for a moment. Then she spoke. "It's because you're black, Amara. That's the only reason." Amara didn't want to believe it, but deep inside she knew it was true. "I just wanted to go to my interview," she said. "I worked so hard. I was ready. I followed every rule." Tears fell from her eyes. She didn't wipe them. She just let them fall. A few airport staff walked by. Nobody stopped. Nobody asked if she was okay. The airline said nothing. No one explained. No one helped. She sat there for 2 hours, alone, afraid, angry. Far away, in seat 16F on that same flight, a teenage girl named Mia had seen everything. She was 17, quiet, and always recording things on her phone. When the woman started complaining, Mia had hit the record button. She didn't know why. It just felt wrong. Now on the plane, she watched the video again. It clearly showed Amara sitting quietly, then the woman called the attendant, then Amara being taken off. Mia looked around. Nobody was talking about it, but she felt a fire inside. When the flight landed, she posted the video online with the caption, "She was removed for no reason, just because she's black. This is not okay." Within minutes, the video started to spread. Back at the airport, Amara finally stood up. Her legs were tired, but her spirit was more tired. She walked to the help desk. "Can I at least get another flight?" she asked. The man behind the desk didn't even look at her properly. "There's nothing we can do right now," he said. "No refund?" she asked. "No." Amara walked away, not just from the counter, but from something bigger, from her trust in the system, from her hope that things had changed. But what she didn't know was this. Her story was about to reach the world. And justice was already in the air. Amara sat in the back of a taxi, staring out of the window. The city lights passed by, but her mind was far away. Her phone was in her hand, but she didn't look at it. She had never felt this kind of pain before, not even when she lost her father, not even when she failed her first college exam. This was something different. This was the pain of being treated like she didn't belong, simply because of her skin. The taxi stopped outside her small apartment. She thanked the driver quietly and walked upstairs. Her feet felt heavy, her heart even heavier. She sat on the bed. The room was dark. No lights, no sound, just silence, and the sound of her deep breaths. Then, memories started coming back. Flashback. Amara at age 9, she was in school. The teacher was choosing someone to lead the class. Project Amara raised her hand, but the teacher looked over her and picked a boy who never did his homework. Later, the teacher said to her softly, "Sometimes it's just easier for others to lead, dear." She didn't understand back then, but now she did. Flashback. Age 17, Amara applied to 5 part-time jobs. She had good grades, clean clothes, and a polite smile. She got no calls back. Her white friend Sarah, with the same resume, got hired in 2 days. Back in the present, Amara sat up and opened her phone. Over 40 missed calls from Zara. She called. Her back. Zara's voice was calm, but full of emotion. "Are you okay?" "I'm trying to be," Amara whispered. "You don't have to be strong all the time," Zara replied gently. Amara stayed silent for a while. Then she asked, "What if this is how it always is? What if no one listens?" Zara paused, then said, "Sometimes the world needs a loud scream to hear the truth. Maybe you're the one to scream now." That night, Amara couldn't sleep. Her heart was full of questions. Was I too quiet? Should I have spoken up on the plane? Will people believe me? But deep inside, a small voice answered, "You did nothing wrong. They did." She opened her laptop and typed a post on her social media. "I was removed from a flight today for doing absolutely nothing. A woman didn't want to sit next to me because I'm black. I stayed silent, but not anymore." She didn't expect much. She just wanted to let it out. She posted it and closed her eyes. Meanwhile, across the city, Mia, the teenager who filmed the video on the flight, was watching something incredible. Her video had already reached 20,000 views in 3 hours. The comments were flooding in. "This is disgusting. That woman should be banned from flying. I stand with Amara. This is racism. Plain and simple. How can the airline allow this?" Mia felt nervous, but proud. She knew she had done the right thing. She looked up Amara's name, found her post, and shared it with the video. Now the fire had started. The next morning, Amara woke up to hundreds of messages. Her post had gone viral overnight. There were comments, news reporters, DMs from strangers offering support. One message stood out. "Hello Amara, I'm Jordan King, a civil rights attorney. I saw your story. I'd like to help you." Amara stared at the message. Her hands were shaking. Was this real? Her story was no longer in the dark. The world was watching now, and the people who tried to silence her, they were about to hear her voice louder than ever before. Morning sunlight came through the window, but Amara didn't feel warm. She sat at the kitchen table, a cup of tea in her hand, untouched. Her phone kept buzzing. Messages, notifications, calls, all from strangers. She finally picked up the phone and opened her messages. One text read, "Amara, the whole internet is on your side. Stay strong." Another one said, "I saw the video. I cried. You didn't deserve that." Amara frowned. "What video?" She opened her social media. The first thing she saw was her own face, a still image from the plane. Right next to it, "Woman thrown off flight for being black. Watch what really happened." She clicked it. The video it was shaky footage, filmed by a young girl on the plane, but it showed everything clearly. Amara sitting quietly, reading her book, the white woman pressing the call button, the flight attendant speaking to her, and finally, Amara being let off the plane while saying, "But I did nothing wrong." Her voice in that moment, soft, broken, echoed in the video. The video ended with silence. Below the video were millions of views and even more comments. "This is racism in full view. The airline should be sued." She handled it with so much grace. "I'm crying. How many people have gone through this silently?" Tears filled Amara's eyes. For the first time in a long while, they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of being seen. Across the country, news channels started picking up the story. Viral plane incident sparks outrage. Black woman removed from flight without cause. Passenger films shocking racist behavior mid-flight. Even celebrities started to repost the video, tagging the airline. The hashtag Justice for Amara was trending. In 5 countries, the lawyer calls again. Her phone rang. It was Jordan King, the civil rights lawyer. "Amara," he said, "I've handled many injustice cases, but yours has a voice louder than anything I've seen in years. That video, it's the truth the world can't ignore." "I don't want revenge," Amara replied. "I just want this to stop. For everyone." Jordan nodded on the other end of the call. "Then let's make sure it does." Back on the plane, Mia, the 17-year-old girl who filmed the video, sat at her kitchen table with her mom. Her mom was proud, but worried. "Sweetheart, what you did was brave, but are you okay?" Mia nodded. I couldn't stay quiet, Mom. She didn't do anything wrong. They treated her like she didn't matter." Her mother smiled. "You gave her a voice, and you gave the world a reason to listen." A movement begins in just 24 hours. Thousands of people shared their own stories of unfair treatment on flights, in schools, at work, that it was no longer just Amara's fight. It was everyone's fight. And Amara, once a quiet woman with a dream, was now a symbol of something greater. She sat at her desk, reading each message with care, replying where she could. One message said, "I've never flown again since a flight like yours, but your strength gave me hope." She closed her eyes. Hope. That's what had taken flight now. 3 days had passed since the video went viral. Amara still hadn't left her apartment. She felt the world watching her, reporters calling, strangers messaging, camera vans parking near her building, but inside, she still felt the same pain. And the same question, what now? That afternoon, her phone rang again. It was the same unknown number that had messaged her before. She took a deep breath and answered. A calm voice spoke on the other end. Hello, Amara. My name is Jordan King. I'm a civil rights attorney. I want to help you not just with words, but with action. Amara was quiet. I've seen the video, he continued. I've read every comment. You didn't just suffer. You were humiliated in front of the world. And now, the world is listening. We have a chance to make them answer for it. Amara's voice trembled. Is that even possible? Can we really do something? Jordan's reply was firm. Yes, but you have to be ready, because once we begin, there's no going back. A meeting that meant everything. The next day, Amara met Jordan in a quiet office downtown. He was kind, respectful, and came with a folder full of documents. This is not just a case, he told her. This is a movement now, and you're at the heart of it. He laid out everything. A legal complaint against the airline, a plan to bring attention to airline discrimination, a team of people ready to support her, all free of charge. Amara looked at the papers. Her hands shook. Will they try to fight this? Jordan nodded. They already are. The airline is denying everything. They said you were non-compliant. They're hoping people forget. Amara's eyes narrowed. I was quiet. I followed every rule. I sat in silence. Exactly, Jordan said. That's what makes this so powerful. Behind closed doors at the same time, inside the airline's main office, panic had started. News stories were getting louder. Protesters were outside the building. Celebrities were cutting ties with the brand. Executives sat around a big table. We need to shut this down. One man said. Another woman added, offer her money. A settlement? Quietly. But one younger staff member stood up. She doesn't want money. She wants justice. And honestly, she deserves it. The room went silent. A surprise offered 2 days later. Amara received a call from the airline's legal team. We'd like to offer you a financial settlement, the woman said. A large one. But it comes with a non-disclosure agreement. You cannot speak about the incident again. Amara didn't even think twice. No, she said clearly. I don't want silence. I want change. The story grows bigger. Amara and Jordan held a press conference. She stood at the podium, shaking at first. But then, her voice grew stronger. I was removed from a flight for being black. I stayed quiet at the time. But now, I'm speaking. Not just for myself, but for every person who has ever been told they don't belong. The crowd clapped. Some cried. The moment was shared across news channels, TikTok, Twitter, everywhere. People weren't just watching anymore. They were. Standing with her MIA watches from home. The teenager who had filmed the video watched the press conference with her mom. She smiled. I didn't know one video could do this much, she said. Her mom put her arm around her. It wasn't just the video. It was your heart behind it. You saw injustice, and you pressed record. Amara's final words to Jordan that day. They tried to take away my seat. But now, I've taken a stand. Jordan smiled. You didn't just take a stand. You gave others the courage to do the same. The world was no longer quiet. After Amara's press conference, the internet exploded with anger, support, and action. The video had now crossed 15 million views. Her story was on every major news channel. But now, the real pressure began. Not just on the airline, but on the woman in seat 13B. The internet finds her online users worked fast. In just a few hours, the identity of the white woman who complained on the plane was revealed. Her name was Diana Brooks, a senior executive at a real estate company. Someone posted screenshots of her old social media comments. Many of them were hateful, racist, ugly. One comment read, people like her don't belong in first class. The internet was shocked. Within hours, her company released a statement. We do not support any form of discrimination. Diana Brooks has been removed from her position. The boycott begins. The airline tried to stay silent, but people weren't buying tickets anymore. Online, hashtags like hashtag boycott Sky Air and hashtag stand with Amara began to trend. People posted videos cutting up their loyalty cards. Some even protested outside airports, holding signs that said Amara deserves justice. Not just an apology, real change. Celebrities joined the movement. Actors, athletes, and influencers posted, if it can happen to Amara, it can happen to any of us. Inside the airline office, the airline's top executives sat in a boardroom, nervous and silent. Our stock is dropping. We're losing partnerships. We should have apologized when we had the chance. A younger manager finally spoke up. We didn't just remove a passenger. We removed a voice, and now it's louder than all of us. Amara sees it at home. Amara sat with Zara, scrolling through her phone. Every post, every message, every video was about her. Zara smiled. You've started something powerful. But Amara wasn't smiling. She whispered, I didn't want any of this. I just wanted to go to a job interview. I just wanted to be treated like a human. Zara held her hand. I know. But now, because of you, thousands of people feel seen. You're not just one voice anymore, you're their voice too. New stories start coming out. People from around the country and even other parts of the world began sharing their own stories. A mother removed from a plane for speaking Spanish. A young black man accused of stealing his own laptop. At the airport, an elderly woman told she didn't fit the image of a first-class passenger. Amara read these stories and felt both heartbreak and fire in her chest. This isn't just about me anymore, she thought. This is bigger, much bigger. Interview with a national reporter. A famous news anchor invited Amara to speak on live TV. Amara, what do you want the world to understand? She took a deep breath. I want the world to stop judging people by their color before they even speak. I want airlines in every place to stop acting like some people don't belong. The anchor asked, and what would justice look like for you? Amara's answer was clear. Justice looks like change. Real, lasting change. Not just for me, for everyone. A lawmaker steps in. Inspired by Amara's case, a senator announced a proposal. We're drafting a bill to protect passengers from racial discrimination on public flights. The crowd cheered. Amara watched the news and finally smiled. This wasn't just noise anymore. This was movement. This was impact. This was justice taking flight. It was early morning. The sky was gray. The streets were quiet. But inside Amara's chest, her heart beat like a drum dot. Today was the day she would face the airline in court. The courthouse news cameras lined up outside. Reporters called her name. Microphones reached toward her as she stepped out of the black car. But Amara walked calmly. Her lawyer, Jordan, walked beside her. You don't have to be perfect, he whispered. You just have to be honest. She nodded. As she entered the building, one woman in the crowd shouted, "We believe in you, Amara." That gave her strength. Inside the courtroom was large and cold. On one side sat the airline's lawyers in sharp suits, with stacks of papers. On the other side, Amara and Jordan sat quietly. Ready? In the back of the courtroom were strangers who came just to support her. Some held signs, some held hope. The judge entered. Everyone stood. This court is now in session. The airline speaks first. The airline's lawyers tried to twist the story. They said Amara had been uncooperative, that the flight crew had followed safety procedures, that the decision was not based on race. Amara's hands clenched. She wanted to shout, she wanted to cry, but she waited because she knew. Her truth was stronger than their lies. Jordan presents the truth. Then Jordan stood up. He played the viral video for the entire courtroom. Everyone watched in silence. Amara sitting calmly. The woman beside her whispering. The flight attendants removing her without reason. The room was still. Jordan spoke clearly. This is not a misunderstanding. This is not about safety. This is racism captured on camera. He placed documents on the table. Amara's boarding pass. Her clean record. Proof of her behavior. Then he turned to the judge. She was punished for existing in the wrong skin. That's not just wrong. It's illegal. Amara takes the stand. Amara takes the stand. Amara walked slowly to the witness chair. She sat down. Her eyes met the judge's. Tell us what happened, in your own words. Jordan said gently. Amara took a deep breath. Her voice was soft, but steady. I boarded that plane with a dream. I followed every rule. I smiled. I said nothing wrong. And still, I was told to leave. Not because I did something, but because I was someone. She paused. The courtroom was silent. For years I stayed quiet, but this time, the world heard me. Tears ran down her face. She didn't wipe them. The world watched. Shista trial was broadcast live. Millions watched online and on TV. Social media exploded again. She's so strong. This is history in the making. We're with you, Amara. Even schools and colleges paused classes to watch her speak. She was no longer just a victim. She was a voice, a symbol, a leader. The judge speaks. After both sides spoke, the judge leaned forward. Everyone held their breath. His words were slow, but powerful. This court finds the airline guilty of racial discrimination. Amara was treated unfairly, without cause. She is awarded full damages, a public apology, and this court recommends policy reform. A loud gasp filled the room. Jordan smiled. Amara covered her mouth. Tears falling again, but this time, they were tears of victory. Outside the courthouses, Amara stepped out. The crowd cheered. Strangers clapped. Some held flowers. Some simply cried. Zara hugged her tightly. You did it, she whispered. Amara looked out at the people, the cameras, the lights, and said, they tried to silence me, but now my voice has wings. And it's not coming down. The courtroom victory was over, but Amara's journey was not, because what happened next was something even she didn't expect. The headlines news spread fast. Amara wins historic case against airline. Court confirms racial discrimination. Real change begins from victim to victory. Amara's stand inspires the world. Her name was everywhere. TV shows, newspapers, social media, but more than her name, it was her courage. People remembered. Airline's public apology. Airline was forced to speak publicly. A press conference was held. One of their top officials stood before cameras. We deeply regret our actions. We failed, Amara. We failed our values. We will now take steps to train all staff against racial profiling. They promised new rules, new training, and even created a passenger respect policy named after Amara. Policy change in motion. Amara and Jordan were invited to join a government committee, together with civil rights leaders, lawyers, and lawmakers. They helped write a bill called the Passenger Protection Act. It included strict rules against discrimination on flights, mandatory racial sensitivity training for all flight staff, a system for passengers to report unfair treatment safely. The bill passed in record time. For the first time, a voice from the back of the plane was shaping the laws in the sky. Amara in schools and colleges. Amara began visiting schools and colleges. She gave speeches, told her story, and met young people who had also been hurt by racism. She stood in one school gym with hundreds of students, watching. She held the mic and said, "They threw me off a plane, but that day, something else took flight. My courage. And yours can too." Students clapped. Some stood and cried. Her words gave them power. Messages from around the world. Her inbox was full every day. Messages came from everywhere. A girl in South Africa. "Your story helped me stand up to my teacher who treated me unfairly." A boy in the UK. "Because of you, I spoke up after being kicked out of a store for no reason." A mother in India. "You gave me the strength to file a complaint against my workplace." Amara replied to as many messages as she could. Each one reminded her, this wasn't just about her anymore. A special interview one evening. Amara sat down for a national TV interview. The host asked, "You were hurt, humiliated, and hated, but you still fought back. What gave you the strength?" She looked into the camera and smiled softly. "Because I knew silence would protect them, not me. I wanted to speak not just for me, but for every voice that was ignored. I didn't want revenge. I wanted respect. And now, I want change that lasts." A new journey begins. Mara started a foundation, Wings of Justice. It helped people who faced racism in schools, airports, and workplaces. She offered legal aid, emotional support, and public awareness. She was no longer alone. She had turned her pain into power, and her story into something that helped thousands. Months had passed since the court victory, but Amara's story was still flying across the world. What began as one woman's pain had become a movement of hope, and Amara, she was no longer the woman who walked off that plane in silence. She was a leader, a light, a voice that could not be silenced anymore. Her new life. Amara's days were now filled with purpose. She spoke at events, met with lawmakers, visited schools and airports. Wherever she went, people stopped to thank her. A young girl once hugged her tightly and said, "You made me feel seen." That sentence stayed with Amara more than any award ever could. Wings of Justice Foundation. Her foundation was growing fast. Wings of Justice now had a small team, lawyers, counselors, and volunteers. They had helped over 200 people who faced racial discrimination. Some of them had filed cases. Some had just needed someone to talk to. All of them had been heard and believed. Amara sat with each person when she could. She listened, she comforted, she gave hope, because she knew what silence felt like, and she had promised herself no one else would feel it alone again. A global message, major airline in Europe, invited her to speak at their headquarters. She stood before a room full of executives and said, "The skies belong to all of us. Every seat, every row, every gate should feel safe. I wasn't thrown off a plane because I was dangerous. I was thrown off because someone judged my skin before they saw my heart. Never let that happen again." They gave her a standing ovation. A documentary is released. A film crew followed her journey. The documentary was titled, She Took Flight. The Amara story. It aired on streaming platforms worldwide. It ended with Amara saying, "They told me I didn't belong, but now, I help others take their place. Proudly, fully, freely." Healing at home. One quiet morning, Amara walked in the park near her apartment. No cameras, no reporters, just peace. She saw a little black girl playing with her toy airplane. The girl smiled and waved. Amara smiled back. That small moment filled her heart with more joy than any headline ever had, because change wasn't just in courtrooms and news, it was in hearts. In kids in ordinary places like a park bench or an airport gate. Final words as the sun began to set. Amara sat by her window. She looked at the sky, golden and wide. She thought about the day she was thrown off that flight. The pain, the shame, the silence. But now, those memories didn't hurt the same because they had grown into something powerful. Amara whispered to herself, "They tried to push me down, but I rose, and in that rising, I carried others with me." She smiled, because from hurt, she had created hope, and hope always flies higher.